The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the HMS Defiant, casting an eerie glow on Captain James Walker's tired face. He stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the main screen with unwavering attention. Around him, the bridge crew worked in focused silence, broken only by the soft beeping of their instruments and quiet status reports. "Status update," Walker called out, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. "All systems operational, Captain," replied Max, the ship's AI, its calm voice echoing through the bridge. "Hull integrity at 98%. Weapons systems primed. Shield generators functioning at optimal levels." Walker nodded, taking comfort in the efficiency of his ship. The Defiant was humanity's finest achievement, a marvel of engineering and innovation. At just under a kilometer long, its sleek black hull housed the most advanced technology Earth had ever created. But right now, it was also Earth's last hope. "Message from Earth Command, Captain," announced Communications Officer Robert Kane, his fingers dancing across his console. "Priority 1. The main screen flickered, and Admiral Wilson's grim face appeared. The old man looked like he hadn't slept in days, his uniform wrinkled, and his eyes bloodshot. "Captain Walker," Wilson's voice cracked slightly, "our worst fears have been confirmed. The Stellar Dominion's fleet has breached the Kuiper Belt. Our long-range scanners show, God help us, 1,000 warships." A collective intake of breath swept through the bridge. Walker's jaw tightened, but he showed no other reaction. "What about the rest of the fleet, Admiral?" Walker asked, though he already suspected the answer. Wilson shook his head slowly. "The Mars Defense Group was overwhelmed 3 hours ago. The Jupiter station, we lost contact 20 minutes ago. The Defiant is all we have left." Walker looked around at his crew, 150 of Earth's finest men and women. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They all knew what was at stake. "Your orders, sir." Walker's voice remained professional, controlled. "Defend Earth at all costs, Captain." Wilson's image started breaking up. "We're detecting unusual interference. Might be the enemy. Connection unstable. Godspeed, Defiant." The screen went dark. Walker turned to face his crew. "Battle stations," he ordered calmly. "Max, start running combat simulations. I want options." "Working on it, Captain," Max responded. "Based on our previous encounters with Dominion technology, I'm analyzing potential weaknesses. Their numbers are overwhelming, but their ships follow predictable attack patterns." The bridge erupted into focused activity. Tactical Officer Mary Green began updating weapon configurations, while Navigation Officer Pete Thompson plotted potential escape routes through the solar system. "Captain," called out Scanner Technician John Davis, his voice tense. "Long-range sensors are picking up the first wave. They're moving faster than anything we've seen before." Walker moved to Davis's station, studying the readings. The enemy ships were beautiful in a terrifying way, their crystalline hulls reflecting the distant sunlight like deadly diamonds against the black of space. "How long until they reach Earth?" Walker asked. "At their current speed, 48 hours, sir." Walker straightened up, his mind already forming plans. One ship against 1,000. The odds were impossible, but humanity hadn't survived this long by giving up when things seemed hopeless. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them we're moving to intercept. And get me everything we have on the Dominion's fleet formations. If we're going to die, we're going to make them work for it." "Message sent," Kane confirmed. "Earth Command acknowledges." They're asking God to protect us, sir." Walker allowed himself a small smile. "God helps those who help themselves, Mr. Kane. Max, plot an intercept course. We've got work to do." As the Defiant's engines hummed to life, Walker felt a strange calm settle over him. One ship against 1,000. It seemed like an impossible fight, but then again, humanity's greatest achievements had always started with the impossible. "Course plotted, Captain," Max announced. "Ready when you are." Walker took one last look at the image of Earth on his personal screen. Beautiful, blue, and worth dying for. "Take us out." Max. Full speed ahead. The HMS Defiant turned gracefully in space, its engines flaring bright against the darkness. Ahead lay the greatest battle humanity had ever faced. Behind lay everything worth fighting for. The HMS Defiant drifted silently behind Saturn's largest moon, Titan. Captain Walker stood at his command station, studying the tactical display that showed the approaching alien fleet. The massive orange bulk of Saturn filled half their view screen, its rings glittering like a warning beacon. "Max, show me the fleet formation again," Walker ordered, his voice low and thoughtful. The AI brought up a three-dimensional display in the center of the bridge. 1,000 red dots moved in perfect synchronization, their formation so precise it looked almost like a dance. "Something's not right," said Mary Green from her tactical station. "No fleet should be able to move that perfectly together. Not at these distances." Walker nodded slowly. He'd been thinking the same thing. "Max, analyze their movement patterns. Look for any sign of coordination technology." The bridge crew watched as lines of data scrolled across their screens. Suddenly, Max's voice broke the silence. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual quantum signals between the enemy ships. They appear to be using some form of quantum entanglement network for real-time coordination." Before Walker could respond, the main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The face that appeared wasn't what anyone expected. The alien commander looked almost beautiful in a strange way, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid metal. "I am Supreme Admiral Gall of the Stellar Dominion," the alien announced, its voice translated into eerily perfect English. "Your resistance is both futile and illogical. Surrender now, and we will ensure your species' survival through integration into our collective." Walker stood straighter, meeting the alien's gaze. "This is Captain James Walker of Earth. We decline your offer. This is our home system, and we will defend it." The alien's expression didn't change, but something like amusement crept into its voice. "You have one ship. We have 1,000. Your mathematics must be primitive. Quality over quantity." "Admiral," Walker replied calmly, "would you like to test that theory?" The transmission cut off abruptly. Walker turned to his crew. "Tom, what do you make of that quantum network they're using?" Chief Engineer Tom Reed scratched his chin thoughtfully. "It's impressive tech, Captain. But it might also be their weakness. That level of coordination requires incredible precision. If we could disrupt it somehow." "Could we use our quantum disruptor?" Walker asked. The experimental device had been designed for FTL travel, but they hadn't gotten it working properly yet. Tom's eyes lit up. "Maybe. It's not stable enough for FTL jumps, but creating interference, that we might be able to do." The ship suddenly shook as a warning shot from the alien fleet passed nearby. The game was on. "Multiple ships moving to surround us, Captain," Mary reported, her fingers flying over her console. "They're trying to box us in against Saturn's gravity well." Walker smiled grimly. "They think we're trapped." "Max, show me Saturn's magnetic field strength in this region." A new overlay appeared on the tactical display. Strong magnetic field lines wrapped around the giant planet like glowing ribbons. "Sir," Tom called out excitedly, "if we can modify the quantum disruptor to work with Saturn's magnetic field, we might be able to create a much larger disruption effect. It's risky, but it's better than certain death," Walker finished. "How long do you need?" 2 hours, minimum. Maybe 3. Another shot rocked the ship. The alien fleet was getting closer, their formation tightening like a noose. "Mary, can you keep us alive for 3 hours?" The tactical officer grinned. "They may have 1,000 ships, sir, but they're being careful. They want to capture us, not destroy us." "I can work with that." Walker nodded. "Tom, get to work on that disruptor. Mary, give him his 3 hours. Max, plot us an evasive course through Saturn's rings." Let's show them why they shouldn't have picked a fight with humanity. The Defiant dove toward Saturn's rings, its hull gleaming in the pale sunlight. Behind it, 1,000 alien ships followed in perfect formation, unaware that their greatest strength was about to become their greatest weakness. Deep in the engineering section of the HMS Defiant, Chief Engineer Tom Reed wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the quantum disruptor. The device was about the size of a car engine, its surface covered in pulsing blue lights and intricate circuitry. Around him, engineering crew members worked frantically to modify the experimental technology. "Hand me that quantum stabilizer," Tom called out to his assistant, Bill. "And be careful with it. That thing costs more than what Earth pays us in a year." The ship shuddered as another alien attack grazed their shields. Up in the bridge, Captain Walker watched the tactical display as Mary executed another complex evasion pattern through Saturn's rings. Ice particles scattered around them like glittering stars. "Shields at 72%, Captain," Max reported. "Engineer Reed's modifications are drawing significant power from our main systems." Walker pressed the internal comm button. "How's it coming down there, Tom?" "Captain, you need to see this." Tom's excited voice crackled through the speakers. "Get down here. Now." Walker looked at his first officer. "Jack, you have the bridge. Keep us alive." The captain made his way through the shaking ship, holding onto walls as each impact rocked the vessel. When he reached engineering, he found Tom practically bouncing with excitement. "Look at this, sir." Tom pointed to a complex diagram on his screen. "We were trying to modify the quantum disruptor to interfere with their network, but we found something much better." Walker leaned in, trying to make sense of the technical readout. "Explain it to me in simple terms, Tom." "Their quantum network doesn't just coordinate their ships. It's actually controlling them. These aren't 1,000 ships with 1,000 crews. They're all connected to one central consciousness, probably that Admiral Gull we met." The captain's eyes widened as he understood. "You're saying one mind is controlling all 1,000 ships?" "Exactly." Tom grinned. "It's efficient, but it's also their biggest weakness. The only way to control that many ships in real time is through quantum entanglement. But quantum states are fragile. Very fragile." Another hit rocked the ship. Walker steadied himself against a console. "And our disruptor can break this connection." "Better," Tom said. "We can hijack it." The quantum disruptor wasn't working for FTL travel because it was too unstable. But that same instability makes it perfect for this. We can send corrupted data through their own network. Walker's tactical mind raced with possibilities. What would that do to their ships? Best case, total chaos. Worst case, we fry our disruptor and they blow us up slightly sooner than planned. The ship's lights flickered as another blast hit them. Max's voice came over the intercom. "Shields at 65%, Captain. The enemy fleet is tightening their formation. They appear to be preparing for a final attack." Walker looked at the quantum disruptor, its blue lights pulsing faster now. "What do you need to make this work?" Tom's expression turned serious. "That's the hard part, sir. We need to get close, really close, to their command ship, the one Admiral Gull is on, and we need about 10 minutes of uninterrupted connection time." 10 minutes. Walker shook his head. "They'll tear us apart in two." "Not if." Tom hesitated. "Not if we divert power from life support to strengthen the quantum signal. We'd have about 15 minutes of air, but the connection would be stronger." Walker was quiet for a moment, considering their options. They were going to die anyway. It was just a question of how to make their death count. "Do it," he ordered. "But don't tell the crew about the life support part. They have enough to worry about." Tom nodded and turned back to his work. Walker headed back to the bridge, his mind already forming a plan. As he walked, he touched the ship's wall gently. "Max," he said quietly, "calculate how long the crew can survive on emergency oxygen reserves alone." 14 minutes and 30 seconds, Captain," the AI responded just as quietly. "Would you like me to inform the crew?" "No," Walker said, stepping into the elevator. Just help us make those 14 minutes count. The elevator doors closed as the ship shuddered under another attack. In engineering, Tom's team worked desperately to modify their last hope. While above them, 1,000 alien ships waited to deliver their final blow. Science officer Linda Ross hadn't slept in 20 hours, but her mind was sharper than ever. She stood in the Defiant's main science lab, staring at the holographic display of Jupiter's magnetic field. Behind her, Captain Walker and Tom Reed watched as she explained her discovery. Look at these readings. She pointed to swirling patterns of energy. Jupiter's magnetosphere is the strongest in the solar system. It's like a giant electromagnet in space. And how does this help us? Walker asked, rubbing his tired eyes. Linda's eyes sparkled with excitement. The quantum disruptor works by creating interference patterns, but what if we could amplify it? Jupiter's magnetic field could act like a giant speaker, broadcasting our disruption across a much larger area. Tom stepped forward, his face lighting up. Like using an amplifier to make a quiet sound louder. Exactly, Linda nodded. But better. The magnetic field would not just amplify our signal, it would scatter it in unpredictable patterns. The alien fleet won't be able to adapt because they won't know where the interference is coming from. The ship shook again. They'd been playing hide and seek with the alien fleet in Saturn's rings for the past hour, but they couldn't keep it up much longer. Max, Walker called out, how long would it take us to reach Jupiter? At maximum speed, 2 hours and 17 minutes, the AI responded. However, the alien fleet would likely intercept us before we arrived. Walker walked to the window, watching ice particles bounce off the shield. We need a distraction. Something big enough to keep them busy while we make our run. Sir, Mary's voice came over the intercom. I've been studying their attack patterns. They're so focused on perfection that they always follow the most efficient route. They don't think like humans. They don't expect tricks. Walker smiled. What are you suggesting, Mary? We could lay a trap. Use the rings themselves as weapons. One well-placed explosion could send millions of tons of ice and rock in their direction. They'd have to break formation to avoid it. The captain turned to Tom. Could we spare a few torpedoes? Tom nodded. We have 6 quantum torpedoes left. Each one could disrupt a large section of the rings. Make it happen, Walker ordered. Linda, I want that magnetic field amplification plan ready by the time we reach Jupiter. Tom, get back to the quantum disruptor. Make sure it can handle the extra power we'll be pumping through it. The crew moved with renewed purpose. In the torpedo room, Mary worked with the weapons team to modify the remaining torpedoes. They removed the normal warheads and replaced them with quantum charges, each one calibrated to create maximum chaos in Saturn's rings. All torpedoes ready, Captain, Mary reported after 30 minutes. Targeting solutions calculated. Walker took his command chair. Max, plot us a course to Jupiter. Time it with the torpedo detonations. We'll need every second of confusion we can get. Course plotted. Max responded. Recommended firing sequence uploaded to tactical. Walker looked at his crew. They were tired, scared, but determined. Earth was counting on them, even if Earth didn't know exactly what they were planning. Send a message to Admiral Gall, Walker ordered. Tell him he was right about our mathematics being primitive. Sometimes we have trouble counting past 1. The message was sent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien fleet began to move, their perfect formation shifting to surround the Defiant's position. They took the bait, Mary grinned. They think we're surrendering. Walker nodded grimly. Fire the torpedoes. All of them. Then get us out of here at maximum speed. 6 quantum torpedoes shot out from the Defiant, disappearing into the dense field of ice and rock that made up Saturn's rings. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to tear apart as massive explosions rippled through the rings, sending billions of particles flying in all directions. The perfect formation of the alien fleet shattered as they tried to avoid the deadly storm of ice and rock. In the chaos, a single human ship slipped away, its engines burning bright as it raced toward Jupiter and humanity's last chance for survival. Jupiter filled the Defiant's view screen, its massive red storm swirling like an angry eye. The giant planet's magnetic field was already making their instruments flicker, exactly as Linda had predicted. Behind them, the alien fleet was closing in, their ships no longer in perfect formation after the chaos at Saturn, but still deadly. "Status report," Walker commanded, his voice steady despite their situation. "Shields at 43%, Max reported. "Hull integrity holding. Quantum disruptor is powered up and ready." Tom's voice came through the intercom from engineering. "Captain, we've tied the disruptor into the main power grid. When we activate it, we'll have about 5 minutes of power before systems start failing." 5 minutes to save Earth," Walker muttered. No pressure. The ship shook as the first shots from the alien fleet reached them. The Defiant dove toward Jupiter's upper atmosphere, using the planet's powerful gravity to accelerate. "Enemy ships approaching in attack formation," Mary reported from Tactical. "They're splitting into 5 groups, trying to box us in again." Linda worked furiously at her science station, making final adjustations to their plan. "Captain, we need to get exactly 50,000 kilometers above Jupiter's cloud layer. That's where the magnetic field is strongest." "How many ships are still networked together?" Walker asked. Mary checked her readings. "About 600 still show quantum linking. The rest are operating independently after the Saturn incident. That's still more than enough to kill us," Jack, the first officer, pointed out. Another blast rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console as their shields weakened further. "Now entering optimal position," Max announced. "Magnetic field strength at maximum. Quantum disruptor ready for activation." Walker stood from his chair, watching as the alien ships surrounded them. Their crystalline hull sparkled in Jupiter's light, beautiful and deadly. The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Gull's face. "An admirable attempt, humans," the alien commander said. "Your tactics at Saturn were unexpected, but now you have nowhere left to run." "Who's running?" Walker smiled. "Linda, now." Linda slammed her hand down on her console. The quantum disruptor powered up with a high-pitched whine that filled the entire ship. The lights dimmed as power was diverted to the experimental device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself appeared to ripple around them as Jupiter's magnetic field amplified their quantum interference signal. The effect spread like a wave through the alien fleet. "It's working," Linda shouted. "Their quantum network is destabilizing." On the screen, Admiral Gull's image flickered and distorted. Hundreds of alien ships began to drift out of formation, their perfect coordination shattered by the disruption field. But then something went wrong. "Power fluctuation in the disruptor," Tom's worried voice called out. "The magnetic field is too strong. It's feeding back into our systems." The bridge erupted in sparks as consoles overloaded. Emergency lights kicked in as main power started to fail. 40% of the enemy fleet is disabled," Mary reported through the chaos. "But the rest are adapting. They're switching to backup systems." Walker gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. "Can we increase power to the disruptor?" "If we do, we'll lose life support completely," Tom warned. "The fleet is regrouping," Mary called out. 600 ships still combat-capable. "They're charging weapons." Walker looked at his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. They'd known this was probably a one-way mission from the start. "Tom," he ordered, "divert all remaining power to the disruptor. Life support, engines, everything except minimal bridge functions." "Aye, Captain," Tom's voice was grim. "It's been an honor." The Defiant hung in space above Jupiter, its power fading as the remaining alien ships closed in for the kill. But in the eyes of its crew, there was no fear, only determination. They had one last card to play, and they would make it count. Warning alarms blared throughout the Defiant as emergency lighting cast red shadows across the bridge. The crew worked in near darkness, their faces illuminated only by their dying console lights. They had less than 10 minutes of air left. "Status of the alien fleet?" Walker asked, his breath visible in the cooling air. 597 ships still operational, Mary reported, rubbing her hands together for warmth. "They're circling us like sharks, Captain, waiting for us to die." Tom's voice crackled over the failing comm system. "Captain, I've got an idea. It's crazy, but we still have our antimatter fuel reserves." Walker straightened in his chair. "Explain." "The quantum disruption field is working, but not strong enough to affect their backup systems. But antimatter, that would create a reaction they couldn't ignore." Linda's eyes widened at her science station. "The magnetic field. If we release the antimatter here, Jupiter's magnetosphere would spread the reaction across a massive area." "How massive?" Walker asked. "Enough to catch most of their fleet," Linda calculated quickly. "But we'd have to time it perfectly with Jupiter's gravity. Use it like a slingshot to spread the antimatter in the exact right pattern." The ship shook as another alien blast hit them. Their shields were almost gone. "If we release our antimatter reserves," Jack pointed out, "we'll have no way to get home. We'll be stranded here." "Better stranded than dead," Mary said firmly. Walker pressed his comm button. "Tom, how long to rig the antimatter pods for release?" 3 minutes, maybe 4. A crash sounded in the background. "Engineering's a mess, but we can do it." "Max," Walker called out, "plot us a slingshot course around Jupiter that will give us maximum spread of the antimatter." "Course plotted," Max replied, its voice slower than usual as power drained from its systems. "Warning, this maneuver will subject the ship to extreme gravitational forces. Hull integrity may not hold." On the main screen, they could see the alien ships moving closer. Their crystalline hulls reflected Jupiter's angry red storm, making them look like they were covered in blood. "They're preparing another attack run," Mary warned. "All ships moving in perfect sync again. They've adapted to our disruption." Walker stood, his decision made. "Tom, begin antimatter pod release preparations. Linda, calculate exact timing for the release. Mary, give us every bit of power we have left to the shields for one last run." The crew moved with desperate energy, knowing these might be their final moments. In engineering, Tom and his team worked frantically to modify the antimatter containment systems. Linda's fingers flew across her console, calculating complex gravitational equations. "Ready in engineering," Tom reported after 3 minutes. "Course laid in," Max confirmed. "Gravitational calculations complete. Shields at 12%, Mary added. "It's now or never, Captain." Walker looked at his crew, humans, standing together against impossible odds. They were cold, tired, and running out of air, but not one of them showed fear. "Send a message to Earth," he ordered. Tell them to watch the light show." The Defiant's engines flared to life one last time as they began their slingshot maneuver around Jupiter. The alien fleet responded immediately, all ships moving to intercept. "Maximum speed," Walker commanded. "Release antimatter pods on my mark." The ship accelerated, its hull groaning under the enormous gravitational forces. Jupiter's massive bulk filled their view as they swept past it, riding the gravity well like a surfer on a wave. "Now," Walker shouted. Tom hit the release control. Behind the Defiant, 12 antimatter pods ejected into space, their contents already beginning to leak. The ship rocketed away from Jupiter as the pods spread out in their wake, caught in the planet's magnetic field. The alien fleet, committed to their attack run, flew straight into the trap. The first antimatter particles made contact with their crystalline hulls just as Jupiter's magnetic field reached its peak strength. The darkness of space lit up brighter than a sun. For 30 seconds, no one on the Defiant's bridge could see anything. The combined effect of antimatter reaction and Jupiter's magnetic field had created a light show brighter than 1,000 suns. When the automatic filters finally cleared their view screen, the sight left them speechless. Where the perfectly coordinated alien fleet had been, there was now chaos. Hundreds of crystalline ships drifted powerless, their quantum network completely destroyed by the massive energy surge. The few ships that still had power were moving erratically, like they'd lost all sense of direction. "Damage report," Walker called out, his voice hoarse from the thin air. The antimatter reaction exceeded all expectations, Linda reported, wonder in her voice. The magnetic field amplified it by a factor of 10. Their quantum network, it's just gone. "Enemy fleet status," Walker asked Mary. 850 ships completely disabled, Mary said, grinning despite her exhaustion. "The rest are scattered, running on backup systems only. Their coordination is totally broken. They're retreating, Captain." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly cut short by a violent shudder that ran through the ship. "Hull breach on Deck 3, Max announced. "Emergency force fields holding, but we're losing structural integrity. The gravitational stress from the slingshot maneuver has damaged our primary support beams." "What about rescue ships from Earth?" Walker asked. "Our communications array was fried in the blast," Jack reported. "We can receive but not send. Wait, incoming transmission." The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Wilson's face. The old man looked like he'd aged 10 years, but he was smiling. "Defiant, this is Earth Command. We're seeing the most incredible sensor readings. Did you just take out the entire alien fleet?" "Most of it, sir," Walker replied, allowing himself a small smile. "Though we could use a ride home. We're stranded near Jupiter with a broken ship and no fuel." "Rescue ships are already on their way," Wilson said. "The whole world watched what you did. The sensors. My God, we've never seen readings like these. You've made history today." Another transmission cut in. It was Admiral Gall. The alien commander's silver skin was now dull, and its perfect posture was gone. "Captain Walker," Gall said, its voice carrying a new tone. "Respect. You have surprised us. This has never happened in 10,000 years of stellar dominion expansion." "First time for everything," Walker replied calmly. "Your species' capability for unconventional tactics is disturbing. We had assumed your primitive mathematics and single ship indicated weakness. We were wrong." "That's humanity for you," Walker said. "We're full of surprises." "We are withdrawing from your solar system," Gall announced. "Your world's independence will be formally recognized by the Dominion. We have much to reconsider about our expansion policies." The transmission ended. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence for a moment before breaking into tired cheers and laughter. "Max," Walker called out, "how long until our air runs out?" "Emergency reserves depleted in 8 minutes, Captain," the AI reported. "Rescue ships will arrive in 7 minutes, 50 seconds. Walker smiled. "Cutting it close, just the way we like it." He looked around at his crew, his family. They were cold, exhausted, and their ship was falling apart around them. But they'd done it. 1 ship against 1,000, and humanity had won. "Message from Earth, Captain," Jack said. "They're asking what we need." Walker thought for a moment, then grinned. "Tell them to bring coffee. Lots of coffee. And maybe a calculator. Apparently our mathematics needs work." As the rescue ships approached, the crew of the Defiant watched Jupiter's swirling storms. They'd done what everyone said was impossible. They'd saved Earth, won independence for humanity, and shown the galaxy that sometimes, just sometimes, one was enough to beat 1,000. In the distance, the last of the alien ships disappeared into deep space, carrying with them a lesson they'd never forget. Never underestimate humanity. The sun rose over Earth, shining on a free world, as rescue ships reached the battered but undefeated HMS Defiant. the ship that had changed the galaxy forever.